going on, everybody? Welcome back to Solar System, where we help you understand the system your soul goes into. This is Moon Days of Michael. I'm your host, the Real Archangel Michael, and I am cutting out the esoteric middleman and giving you the tools you need to connect yourself right to the freaking source, right over there. Serious talk. Have you ever wondered about the structures of dimensions in reality that sort of hold our entire verse, multiverse, and entire space that we can live in and experience in together? Well, in this video series, we're going to start breaking all that down for you. Now, I don't want to say that this is a very common thing for people to come across, but when I first started my spiritual journey in this lifetime, even before I started, the path that I'm on, this was always a question that I had on my mind, and that is how everything works. How was the universe created? What holds everything together? So what exactly are we going to be talking about in this video series? First of all, the dimensions of reality that we can exist in and experience. So you might have heard this before. Dimensions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's it. If anyone tries to tell you that there's, 11, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17 dimensions, smack! Because what they're basically doing is compounding different dimensions together, which is basically a higher form of another dimension, which they're just trying to create in order for you to get lost into, and that is not okay, and I do not appreciate that bullshit. So, slap them, esoterically. Alright, so unfortunately I had to close the door behind me because of certain animals making certain noises that were kind of annoying that you may hear in the previous seconds of this video. So we're going to be talking about, the first through ninth dimensions. Eventually we'll start talking about the zero realm, some other spaces that, I can't exactly say at the moment. The spirit realm, the realm of all possibilities, as well as the multiverse eventually. Yeah, sort of everything that kind of makes up what we live in, what we experience. We're going to talk about dimensions. So when I say dimensions, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the dimensions of reality that you can experience, as well as physical vessels you can incarnate into. So without any further ado, what the hell am I talking about? Great question. So when we're talking about dimensions, I am not talking about is the spirit realm. I'm not talking about the realm of all possibilities or space in general. I'm talking about different levels of vibration. And this is not directly correlated to how powerful you are as a spirit, or even how aware you are as a spirit, because even up until the sixth dimension, you can still be quite lost and unaware and still led astray. So just because the number is higher and the so-called resonance is higher does not mean that you are more powerful or more aware. Just putting that out there. So when I'm talking about dimensions, what we're actually talking about is, in a physical sense, the different levels of vessels that you can incarnate into. But we're also talking about, in a spiritual sense, where you are as a spirit. Now wait, what the heck do I mean when I'm talking about a physical vessel that you can incarnate into versus a spiritual level of awareness that you have as a spirit? Physical things will correlate physically. Physical things will correlate physically. No fucking shit. Spiritual things will correlate physically. So what I mean by this is that when you have a different level of spiritual resonance, the things that happen to you physically or the form that you take will match that into some degree. So this all makes sense once we break down the dimensions. In order to keep this video not too long, to keep all the information that we have into, bite-sized little pieces, we're going to just be talking about the first, second, and third dimensions that we live in and that we can experience, which in order to exist in the third dimension, you must have already lived lives in the first and second dimension as well. First, second, and third dimension, let's start off. So, first dimension, what is it? What the hell am I talking about when I say first dimension? So, the first dimension is the start of your spiritual journey here in this realm of reality, the physical realm, where in order for you to grow to take on a physical vessel like I have right here, the thing I can stab with this, you have to start somewhere, right? And how exactly do we start? Well, when we're thinking of origins and the beginnings of things, they start off as very light. And what I mean by light, I'm not talking about light sources, I'm talking about light as in density. So when you start off as a spirit, you first start off as a thought form. You have some sort of thought, idea. And this is a very masculine type of energy. If you want to think of it like Adam and Eve, this is the atom. It's the thought, the gas, the masculine energy, right? So when you first start off as a spirit, you are a thought. There isn't any physical form to a one-dimensional being because they're just an idea, a thought. They haven't begun to move yet. And that brings us into the second dimension. So the second dimension of reality is a thought that is able to move, putting something into motion. Now, if you know anything about the word emotion, this will make sense because the second dimension has to do with taking your thought, your idea, whatever it is, and moving with it and putting that into motion. This is adding feminine energy to a masculine thing. So the thought is masculine, the movement, the emotion is, the feeling is feminine. Now, when it comes to the physical side of this, so the second dimension is you being a cell or a bacteria. What happens? Well, if you think about what a cell is doing, it is interacting with the environment on a very molecular level. And what happens when you start to become very aware of interacting with your environment as well as, maintaining your thought and idea that you had before? Well, when you are able to take that thought and idea, put it into motion as well as interact with your environment, what happens? Eventually you can take on a three-dimensional vessel because the third dimension is all about your environment, your surroundings, understanding that and moving through that. The third dimension is all about having your idea, putting that into motion, as well as navigating through different experiences and your environment that surrounds you. Now, there's also the thing to look at where we have animals where they are still living in the third dimension, but they are doing it on a much simpler level. Right? So they're not exactly two-dimensional beings. They are three-dimensional beings. They haven't quite mastered being around an environment. And when you take a look at animals, typically animals that live on their own, like cats are solitary. Anytime you have a wolf pack and a wolf leaves the pack or anything like that, that is an animal who is getting ready to incarnate into a human vessel because they're moving away from the group idea, taking their own idea, trying to move and navigate through the world with that idea so they can become a three-dimensional vessel. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that even though you are living inside of a three-dimensional vessel at this time, doesn't necessarily mean that your spirit resonates with the third dimension. It just means that for whatever reason, there's something here that you have to do. So for example, your spirit could be resonating in the fourth, fifth, sixth, the seventh, eighth, or ninth dimension, but for whatever reason, you have to be here at this moment. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the first, second, and third dimension. And as we start talking about the fourth, fifth, and sixth, and then the seventh, eighth, and ninth dimension, how things correlate and make sense will all start to fall together. But I didn't want to throw all that information at you in one video, so we're doing this in parts. So as always, you have any comments or questions, leave them down below, man. We'd love to hear from you. And if you would like to request a natal chart reading, a sun, moon, ascendant breakdown, fixed star reading, tarot card reading, we do it all. Just email us at readings@solarsystems.org. And if you want to stay in touch with our daily alignments that we do every day on the daily, breaking down the daily energies of that day, you can go ahead and check out our Instagram, where we post on our story and we have a reel basically every single day breaking down those energetic alignments and influences that we'll be feeling throughout the day. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, do all that. I'll see you in the next one, and make sure y'all fly high.